Say what you will about Kendall Roy, he really does know his way around an investors meeting. Let's get started. Hello everybody, welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia, and today we're going to be talking about Succession Season 4, Episode 6, Living Plus Together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, give some love to that subscribe button, click the bell, everything that YouTubers say. And also, if you're a fantasy fan or you have a fantasy fan in your life, maybe help out an aspiring author by checking out my self-published fantasy novels, We Were Wizards, which are available right now on Amazon.com in hardcover, in softcover, and in ebook. They are full of magic and wizards and elves and bows and arrows, and some characters have swords. One of the characters has a boomerang, all kinds of crazy stuff like that. And I know what you're thinking. Succession and fantasy really don't mix very well. You know, why would you be promoting this on a show about corporate America? Well, to be fair, Succession is, at the end of the day, at its roots, a Shakespeare play. And there's a lot of big Shakespearean themes I drew on when I wrote We Were Wizards. So there's that. So check out We Were Wizards right now. I'll put a link down below. And hey, be sure to leave a comment and review if you buy the books, because that helps me out a lot too. And without further ado, let's get into Living Plus. This is going to be another short, brief little overview of this wonderful television program. I sound so old when I say that, and I don't care. Leave it to the satirical minds of Jesse Armstrong and everybody on the writing staff at Succession to come up with something as horrifyingly realistic as Living Plus, because it is only a matter of time. Let's face the music, not to be depressing, but we are living in a dystopian future right now. That's it. We're here. We've gotten there. And I'm not going to say there's no going back, because there's always hope. But we are living in one of those dystopian futures we've spent our childhoods only seeing in fiction. And it's only a matter of time before somebody out there from some giant corporation decides that Living Plus is a good idea and a profitable one. So Living Plus was all about damage control. It was about the fact that Madsen puts in this giant bid last week, even though they wanted to tank the deal. So now the Roy brothers are trying to drive up the value of Waystar stock so that it becomes impossible for Madsen to make an offer. And meanwhile, the Roy sister is working with Madsen secretly to try to drive down the value and make it an easier sale. This kind of stuff, when the show does this, I love it. I love the way they navigate these churning waters and the wheeling and dealing that these characters go through, and just how two-faced and backstabby they can get. And of course, we are dealing with the Roys, so every single one of them is unhinged. They are just damaged goods. They are cracked Ming vases. They have been put together with crazy glue, but you can still see the cracks, and just the slightest breeze could make them crumble again. So these kinds of people are holding all this power, and we see that power exercised when Roman starts firing people willy-nilly, and Kendall starts ordering houses to be built on stage within 24 hours, right? It's the same kind of stuff that we saw last season, particularly with Kendall, but now it's amplified because it feels like all of this unhinged impracticality is accelerating and there's no slowing down, which makes sense because we have 4 episodes left in this entire series. So it's just going to keep going and going until it hits a shatter point, which presumably would be the finale. And we see what ends up happening to the crazy Roy clan. It was Siobhan who ended up having my favorite quote of the week. And it happens at a party where she and Tom start playing this game called Bitey. Rich people play the weirdest shit. And they're biting each other, and Tom bites her to the point where she goes, ouch, and she steps back, and she says to him, Tom Wamsgans, you finally made me feel something. Not only is this just a funny little line, but it's so deceptively simple, and it speaks volumes that these two who were married, you know, throughout the whole show, we've seen them being a married couple more or less, and now she says, from biting my arm, you finally made me feel something. Ugh. It's a great quote, and it's my favorite quote of the week because it is a perfect sort of framed example that you can hang up on the wall, an example of what kind of people we're dealing with here. The kind of people who would be at a party like this, the kind of people who would choose to spend their time at a party like this playing this kind of game, and then the kind of people who would stay in a relationship for who knows how long without feeling anything. And the kind of people who would say that to one another out loud and admit, yeah, you didn't make me feel squat. Sociopaths, kids! And that behavior is front and center with Roman too, because he's just firing folks for the sake of firing them. And I personally think that that is coming from a place of, if I be more like Dad, it's like Dad is still here. Because yeah, they all miss Logan in their own twisted ways. And Roman's to me seems the most twisted, and his seems to be, I can't have Dad here, I'm going to make it seem as much as possible as if he is here. Which includes behaving like him, being rude to people, firing them willy-nilly, and most disturbing of all, making this chopped together audio recording of Logan berating him and saying he has a micro dick and saying he never gets anything right and playing that on a loop. Ooh, that is some twisted stuff. It just goes to show how damaging Logan Roy was as a father. This show has given us some great examples of that in the past, but I don't think anything tops this. And that scene with Roman talking to the studio director shortly before he fires her, it reinforced this kind of thing that I've been noticing on the show, which is that despite the fact they are constantly talking shop, right? Despite the fact that we always see these people working, very rarely do we see them kind of just, sitting down and eating a pizza and shooting the shit, right? They're usually always doing something that has to do with work. Despite that, we never really get a sense that any of the Roys care about Waystar products. Waystar is, more or less Fox, right? Which means they're making movies, but you never get the sense that they give a damn about those movies that they're making, about the art that they're making, right? Roman is dealing with the studio heads, but you never get a sense that Roman even cares about movies. You never hear him say like, oh, this motion picture is going to be really important because it's this franchise that we care about and has all the whatever. It's just all about numbers, which is exactly how corporate America really works. And it holds that beautiful dark mirror up, and you can't help but think, yes, as much as I love Star Wars, I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, Bob Iger and Bob Chapek do not give a damn about the Force. All they care about is Green Arrow up and not Red Arrow down. It's a sobering reminder that the people giving us art, or rather the people funding the art that we consume and enjoy, have the least amount of appreciation for art out of any member of the human race, which is terrifying and disturbing and alarming that we have allowed the system to work that way for so long. But again, I don't want to make these videos depressing. So Living Plus ends with the investor meeting, and despite Siobhan and Mattson and even Roman's attempts to derail this whole thing, Kendall manages to pull through and actually do a pretty good job of selling something as horrific as Living Plus. And this whole scene really made me just kind of think about how much of reality is happening here, right? Whether it's Greg having Logan's audio edited so that it says things that he never actually said, or whether it's Mattson deliberately sending out an anti-Semitic tweet to lower the potential of Waystar's value, things like that. It really makes me wonder how much of that has happened in real life. How many controversial tweets have been done on purpose because of some sinister fiduciary agenda? How many quotes have been deliberately misrepresented for some sinister fiduciary agenda, right? How much evil have people committed in the name of money that is happening right in front of our faces and we don't even realize? The show can be terrifying when it hits so close to home. As we end the episode, Living Plus seems like it's going to be a success. The investor meeting goes well, and Mattson, thankfully, because I can't stand the guy, has his work cut out for him if he wants to drive down the value of the stock. And now we sail into the future with 4 episodes of Succession left. So what did you feel about Living Plus? Would you send your elderly relatives to their Living Plus establishments? God, I hope not. I will talk to you all next week for the 7th episode. 7th? 7th? Yes, the 7th episode. Until then, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Adios.